Hi, I'm Matt. I'm the lead balancer here at Rocky Mountain Driveline. I'm going to show you guys how we balance a drive shaft for you guys. Okay, this is the balancer. This is the motor that spins up the balancer. These are the RPMs to spin how fast your balancer is going to go. This is how you turn on your balancer. This is how you stop it. This is your strobe. This is how you're gonna be able to find the high spot and how to balance it. So first things first, we're gonna set up your balancer. This is your drive shaft. These are the setups we use to connect it to the drive shaft. It's just like bolting it to your vehicle. So you're gonna have to put it in like it goes into your vehicle. So the slip side always goes to the transmission. So our setups are designed to lock them in there. So we have a notch right here and we have a set screw right here. We're gonna line them up. Now we go to the other side and do the same thing. Match the knots with the set screw. Make sure you tighten it so it doesn't come back at you. Okay, now that we're at this step, we got to figure out what the measurement and how it's going to be in the vehicle. Okay, so you're going to measure your slip. So it's about 4 inches. So what you do is you do half of that. So kind of bring it in a little bit to about 2 inches. So that's how it's going to be in the vehicle. That's how it's going to ride. Now, you want to check these bolts as well. Make sure they're nice and tight. Go ahead and re-tighten them. You want to make sure everything's tight because if something's loose, it'll throw off your balance. So you want everything nice and flush, nice and tight. Okay. Now, if I spin it, you can see it's kind of wobbling. So we got to get that nice and straight. So we have this thing called a dial indicator. What you do is you put it right on the slip, which you're trying to get straightened. So I'm going to spin it and see how far out it is. So you're always going to go clockwise. Clockwise is always going to be your high spot. So that's obviously going to be your high spot. I like to spin it around a couple of times because it could mess up. Could fool you with the high spot. So that's going to be the high spot. So what first things you're going to do is you're going to get your hammer. Get the high spot and tap it. You don't want to hit it too hard because it's not welded and it's just pressed in there. So it could fall out. You just kind of work your way to where it's pinned. So you keep going clockwise and just tapping it till it gets smaller and smaller on the dial indicator. So I like to leave it about right there. You don't have to get it super pinned. We'll get it pinned later with the heat torch. So I like to tack it where each joint is. So I'll tack it once right here, once right here, once right here, and once right there. So when you're tapping this side straight, this doesn't go out. So go ahead and tack that. Now that we have this side tapped straight, we're going to tap this side straight. So what we did over here, we're going to do over here the exact same way. So always go clockwise to get your high spot. So that's going to be our high spot. And remember, you don't want to hit it too hard or you'll knock it out of the tube. So I'm going to tap it clockwise, tap it. Just watch it get smaller and smaller. Remember, you don't have to get it pinned because we'll get it pinned later with the torch. We'll leave it there. Now we'll tack it just like how we tack this side. Okay, so now that we got this cap straight and this cap straight, we're gonna sand it. So you're gonna set your RPMs about 15,000. That's about the 3 on the RPMs. You don't want to spin it too fast because it'll break your welds. So you got to get it nice and clean so you got a nice and clean weld. And you don't want to pull too hard because this will jerk at you and you could get hurt. So just barely, nice and light, just get it all nice and clean. This side, nice and clean. And then I like to get this wire brush and get in between the grooves. Same over here. Okay, now we'll press stop. We'll set it back to 0, just in case you hit that button and it spins on you and won't spin and hurt you. So now let's get to welding. So get your ground. Make sure it's in a smooth spot. Make sure there's not no burrs on there to get this caught when you're welding, because it'll mess up your weld. So what we do is we get a bucket. My foot on the bucket and my knee up here. It gives you a lot more steady surface. So you're able to get a nice clean weld. Okay, now let's weld. Now that we got this guy welded, we'll go ahead and repeat that over here. We have both welds done. We're going to pull it off. It's our cooling tray. So now I'll set it up in it about 5 RPM, nice and slow. It'll get you nice and cooled off. I'll go ahead and pull off the weld yolks, pull off everything, so we're able to balance it. Now that we got it welded on both sides, You want to make sure you get good penetration. So see how it's burnt on the weld yoke and on the tube as well? That's how you know how you have good penetration. If it's only burnt on this side, we're gonna have to cut it out and re-weld it. So same on this side. Okay, see all these burrs? Now we're gonna spin it up and sand it so we're able to put the dial indicator so we're able to heat straight. So see how it's hopping right there? I tapped it straight, I tapped this side straight, welding both, but it's still hopping. That's where the heat straightening comes in so we can get it nice and straight. So it's always gonna hop on you once you weld it because it starts to cool on one side. So we'll go ahead and sand it down. And remember, don't push down too hard because you'll hurt your wrist. So I like to get the whole tube, make it look nice and smooth. Okay, so now that we got it welded, we got to check it for slop. And what slop is you'll see a little bit of movement in between the joints. So I'll move it and you'll see it moving a little bit. And that's slop. So if you try to balance it and it has movement like that, you'll never balance it. So what we use is we use thicker snap rings. These are called snap rings. So we have different color snap rings for different thickness. Okay, so these are the snap rings. These are what comes with the joint. These are the thicker ones and these are the thinner ones. So sometimes we'll need it'll be too tight where we have to put a thinner snap ring. Sometimes it'll be too loose, we'll have to put a thicker snap ring. So which snap ring you just know what to take out is the one that's sitting flat. So if you look at this one, it's a lot flatter than this one. This guy's sticking up, this guy's flat. So we'll go ahead and take this guy out. And see how easy it was to take out? That means we need to put a green snap ring in. So we'll go ahead and get the snap ring in there. And you got to make sure that your snap ring's seated, because if it's sitting like that, it'll fly at you. So you got to go ahead and hit it in. Hit this side in. Okay, now that it's all seated, you want to look all the way around, make sure nothing's popping out. So I'll repeat and check it for slop again. So there's no slop anymore. Now I'll check this guy. That guy's good. Sometimes we'll have to put green snap rings on, sometimes we don't. You just always want to check it for slop. So now that this is nice and tight, go ahead and check this one for slop. So that's nice and tight. That's nice and tight. From what I feel, it's nice and tight, but once we start spinning up, we might have to switch a snap ring. Okay, so there's a greaser here and a greaser here. Now that we feel that it's nice and tight, we'll go ahead and grease them up. So get your grease gun, and you'll just pump a little bit, and you'll see grease come out from where the black rubber's at, and that's how you know when to stop. So that's good. Go ahead and get this guy as well. And you'll hear a little bit of grease come out. And see the grease coming out right there? That's how you know it's nice and greased. Okay, I'll wipe all that excess grease off. Okay. Now that we got it greased, we got it nice and tight on each joint. We know it's somewhat straight. Now we're gonna go into heat straight. I always like to start where the slick side's at and work my way towards the rear. So I'll go ahead and get my water ready, because you want to cool it off as you heat. This is your torch. It's an oxygen settling torch. So what you want to do is you have a red cord and a green cord. You're going to crack your red cord, barely. And you get your striker, and you turn it on. Now that the cylinder's on, we're gonna slowly let the oxygen in. You get about right there. Now we're ready to heat straight. So now, we'll go ahead and get our dial indicator once again. And we'll get, just like how we tap straighten it, we're gonna heat straighten it. So again, clockwise, you're gonna find your high spot, so about right there. I'm gonna move my water and I'm gonna go straight across from the dial indicator. So I'll go ahead and heat it a little bit. And now you know how much to heat it is how much it's out of straightening. So it's not too much. So if the dial indicator was moving a lot, I'd put a lot more heat in it. So if it's not moving too much, that's how much heat I'm gonna put on it. So I usually count to about 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. When it's cooling off, you'll see the dial indicator move back, and that's how much you've been straightening it. So we'll go ahead and let it cool off for a little bit. And see how it's getting a lot smaller? Same as tapping it straight. So we'll go ahead and get it right there as well. And now that it's smaller, I'm not gonna put that much heat on it. Go ahead and let it cool down. And each time you heat it and let it cool down, your dial indicator is going to get smaller and smaller. But if you heat it too much, it's going to make it, it's going to throw it out of phase. So it's getting smaller, so we're getting right. So the smaller the dial indicator is, the less you have to heat it. So it's very, so I'm going to give it a quick spot right here. Pull it off. Okay. I like to get it pinned on here. It just makes it a lot easier to balance. So now that it's buried, I'm going to give it a quick touch up right here. Just like that. We'll go ahead and let it cool down. So I think we're good on that side. That's as close as we're going to get. So now that we got this nice and straight, we'll go ahead and move your water tray and come to this side. Okay, now we're gonna see how much we have to this side. So not as bad as this side. So we're not gonna heat it as much. I'll probably count to about 5 seconds on this side. It kind of gives you an idea how much to heat it. So remember, you always wanna go right across from your dial indicator because that's your high spot. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And go ahead and let it cool down. And see your dial indicator starts to move barely. But once it stops, that's how you know it's cooled off. So it's gonna be right underneath the spot I heat it, and it barely wants any heat. So I'll probably count to about 3. 1, 2, 3. One more little touch, I'll probably count to about 2. 1, 2. Okay. I think we're good. I think we're ready to balance now. So that's what you always want to see. You want it in between the two numbers. And it'll make your job a whole lot easier. Now that we have it straightened, we'll go ahead and have you talk to the manager and see what you learned.